And I mean, the pandemic didn't really help anything either. I was gonna like wait to bring this up for like another week, but I was like looking at data recently as to how like the pandemic has affected like people's social abilities, right? Yeah. And I think that
very negatively.
It was something
I can tell you from first-hand experience.
It was something crazy where like I think it was like twice the amount of men don't have close friends or something. And part of this is because of like stuff like the pandemic, like preventing people from going outside. The other part of that is probably like a bunch of mama's boys who depended on their mom to make plans for them. And as a result, like don't have close friends that they hang out with anymore. Because then they'd have to do the plans themselves, you know, or whatever. But it is affecting, oh, I'm glad. It is affecting women pretty adversely as well. It's not as pronounced as it is in men, but it's definitely affecting women as well. And it's weird because I don't think that as a species we've ever been more connected, yet we feel so isolated at the same time.
I feel like, I don't know if this is completely related to the research that you looked at, but I've kind of noticed a tinge of like people closing themselves off from vulnerability a good bit.
I would never do that.
Generation, you know, and obviously I think we're all guilty of that, but
yeah,
I think it's something like I had this thought the other day. Where I kind of realized that other than my brother, I'd guess, like, I'm not really the I'm not really someone who someone would really turn to if they needed something or, like, just needed that, like, they were having a really rough go of it and just needed someone to talk to, right?
Yeah.
And for a while, I kind of was like, is that anything on me because people don't trust me with that type of shit? And, you know, maybe there's something I have to work on there, but also is it like I feel like people just aren't I feel like
there's been a weird sort of like there's a weird sort of side effect of everybody knowing like therapy speak now, right? And like whether or not they're weaponizing it, it's very weird to me that like people will say stuff to other people like, oh, you shouldn't consult your friends about XYZ. You should be talking to a therapist. And it's like, bro, what the fuck are friends for?
Yeah.
Like
what do you mean?
Like, then,
yeah.
I mean, I'm going to pull from this. It's going to seem like a surface level thing, but trust me on this, we'll get there.
I believe you.
I started watching John Wick 4. And one of the first scenes in that movie, John Wick is talking to a guy that owns one of like the hotels for like the assassins or whatever. And he says, you know, I'm so sorry. All these people are here now because of me. I've put such a burden on you. And the first thing that guy says to him he says, friendship doesn't really mean much if it's convenient.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, pretty much.
And that's the thing I find is I feel like people want convenient friends or even convenient relationships. I feel like so much of how I see people look for what they like, people look for like relationships in the sense of like, how is this a value add to my life right now? And that's not how whether romantic or friendship or what have, that's not how relationships work.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like, you'll see people in like their dating profile be like, oh, what do you add to my life? And it's like, me? I don't know, man. Like, yeah, me. Like
Quar? Like
you pay your own bills, you know, right? Like, what else do I need to add? It's a little weird. It's very, very strange.
And it
like
kind
the way
of goes back into that, like, you know, like I forget the word you use, but the like the value
utilitarian
of the utilitarianness, like people view relationships in that way in terms of like an input versus output. And it's just like, sure, there's for some things like, sure, but it feels hyperbolic to say there's a sickness, you know, because I feel like that's what old people would say. Like, there's a sickness in America right now.
True. Yeah. And we're down with it, you know. Ooh, ah, ah, ah.
Yeah. But it's also like, I don't have the context to know if this is just an our generation thing or if this has been disguised as different flavors in different generations.
I think that it's probably like, I think it probably is like appeared at some point, like in different forms. And it might just be due to like people just not knowing. Cause I mean, again, we're extremely connected as a society now and like as a species. And it's very clear like how many shared experiences there are, but it's also clear too, like just how different some things are and like how different everybody wants out of their life is. And so like, I don't even, there's so many like variables I'm turning over. Like my brain is short circuiting right now.
Yeah. I kind of just want to hop a lot. But, so like a couple things that I've been kind of mulling over is like, given like the COVID and just like like post COVID people just not being able to talk at all. It's like, I think it's even more like, I feel like it's pretty drastic for me because like, I guess I'll just TLDR, but like TLDR, like pre-COVID, I was very like loud, boisterous. You could argue that I'm kind of loud here, but only like on this like fucking podcast. You know what I mean? Like you all have seen me in real life. I'm not that. You know what I mean? And in real life, I'm not that. Not. But like in terms of like my loud, boisterous self, I used to be that like all the time, 24/7, like pre-COVID. Like I was definitely like more like extroverted. I would talk to people all the time, blah, 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 like yapping. And then like, I don't even know what happened. And that's the thing is that like COVID happened, but like in COVID, I was talking to Thomas all the time. Like I was talking to Ryan, like I met you all, like, you know what I mean? And so like, I was still talking to people like all the time. Like I was still like, cause even like the frights, just like the whole frights thing in 2020 where everyone was just like around talking, you know, those VCs were happening every day. Playing
fucking Among Us, you know?
Yeah. So it wasn't like I wasn't talking to people, you know what I mean? But it's just this weird thing where like now it's like, I don't even know what happened. I just like observed it. I observed it for the first time in 2022 when I did my internship for like graduating. So like I went to this place to do my internship and like I could not talk to anyone. And what ended up happening is that like at lunch, instead of like just sitting and eating lunch in the cafeteria, I would eat lunch in 3 minutes because one of my skills is that I'm really a fast eater. And then I would just go out to my car and I would just lay down in the back seat for like 50 minutes. And then I would walk back in. And I did that every day, like clockwork.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what like happened? And like now, like even fast forward now, it's still hard for me to like talk to people or just like hold a conversation or like anything anymore. And I think this is reflected in other people too, because in my workplace, we have interns come in sometimes. And so these are like interns from like local colleges or whatever, you know, doing our work, essentially like video audio, right? And they're video audio interns and they come in and then like getting them to like talk is like pulling teeth. Like it's like even worse than me. And I'm like, holy shit. Like we literally had one today who was like on the verge of tears and we were like, dude, it's not that you're just wrapping a cable. Like it's not like, we're not going to cruise like that. Cause like me and Johnny, who's like my best friend, we like dick around the whole time. You know what I mean? So we're like, it's not that like, take a deep breath. No one's like, you have space to fuck up a cable wrap. It's also a cable. But like, it's like, even like with him, with like a lot of other interns, they come in and they're just like very mousy and there's like, and they like don't want to take up like any space at all. And I think that's like kind of like the way I would describe like kind of the change is that no one ever wants to take up space. Everyone wants to be like invisible. They don't want to take up space. They just kind of want to like hide and like move places, which I'm including myself in that. And then, so that I think is just a thing that's been happening. And I think it's very apparent with like the next generation, especially people coming out of college right now, is that they're terrified. It kind of speaks to what Cole was saying, but I think they're a little bit worse than Cole, respectfully. I think you're doing a little bit better than some of these people, Cole. But
I hope. Probably.
Well,
yeah.
I just want to point out that, well, okay. Are you done?
I have my thing written down. Okay. Go ahead.
So just to build off of like the being invisible thing, I don't necessarily know if people want to be invisible. I think they just want to escape. I feel like that, and maybe it's because we've grown up with like digital things to immerse us into a world, to get into like, I call it the zone. And I actually first heard about this in a class where we talked about gambling addiction, where like how gambling, or at least slot machines, like gambling addiction works, is that these people who play the slots, they get into this zone and they don't want to get out. Like it just feels good to like, not even from a sensory standpoint or even winning money standpoint. It's just like
the immersion,
focusing it. Yeah. Just focusing in and immersing yourself and things like that. And I mean, I can kind of get that, like with any kind of addiction. I mean, it can be with any kind of addiction, but it can also just be like, you know, if you feel uncomfortable, you could just plop in those headphones, void everybody out, watch a video, play a game.
That's literally what our intern, our current intern does. He literally brought in his headphones and he would just put them on and just like ISO for like a bit. And I was like,
okay, yeah. But then when it's like, oh, well, you need to do something or you got to take the headphones off, you're confronted with that and you're like, ugh, like, I don't want to do that. I want to go away. And the reason, and where that comes from could probably be from multiple things. I feel like our emotions are sort of like a web and they're all kind of tied to one another. And there's no like exact focal point where you can cut it and everything will fall apart. You have to like take all these little cuts to finally get through what you're trying to get past, you know? So like, well, a good example, I actually just talked about this on my Green Room channel today.
Luigi has done it again.
But it's like, you know, here, I can pull it up real quick if you want to say your thing. I said a really good example in the video and I wrote it down. But
yeah, well, I have another thing to say, but it's kind of off topic, so I will just bounce off of what you said. I think that's a reason why speedrunning is actually kind of growing in popularity and why more people are doing it. Because I think like similar to slot machines, like speedrunning, like whenever you're locked into a run, like your focus is ISO'd on that, right? And you're kind of like blocking everything out. It's a pretty similar feeling, I would argue, except maybe a little bit less toxic for you than gambling. But like, I think like you could definitely like feel that like when you're speedrunning. I mean, that's why I like speedrunning so much, because it's just like you're here, right? I think it's the same reason why people like watching movies or whatever, because you start watching the movie and then, you know, it's like your attention's like out here, and then it just like slowly focuses, and then you're like boom, and then you're like there, and then like it just depends on whatever medium you want it to do. It could be gambling, it could be speedrunning, it could be movies, it could be fucking making music, like anything, right? And I think that's a thing that's just been happening for like ever. But I think it's like, I think with the advent of technology, like normally
it's
those
so
things
accessible to do that now.
Well, yeah, but what I was going to say is that I think that like a lot of these things you would get in the zone or ISO, but it would typically be with other people. Like if you're making music, typically like back in the day, if you're making music, you're making it with other people. You're not just making it by yourself. Although nowadays, many people can make you can just make it on your own. This like literally you can just like bloop, bloop, like GarageBand, here we go, you know, FL Studio, shit's free, like just bust it out, you know what I mean? And I think like even like movies, like again, streaming services and everything, like a lot of times with movies you would go to the movies with someone, like, you know, not even like a romantic, like just with your boys or like with your mom, like whoever, you know what I mean? Like, and I think like streaming services have kind of taken that. So now you can get that like ISO movie feeling, but now there's no one around. It's just you alone in your fucking room, darkness, like
I feel like convenience has been the death of us. Like convenience is, I think, the thing I see as the through line between all of these, where it's just like, because things have been made more convenient, it has caused people, it's like a vicious cycle where people seek more convenient type stuff because they have convenience. And there's nothing wrong with having, you know, there's a big difference between the convenience of having a fucking microwave and, you know.
One day Amazon shipping.
I partially agree. I kind of partially agree, just because, like, again, I guess I'm thinking about it as like this web perspective, where that's definitely probably a point. Like that certainly doesn't help. But
it's not the full thing.
I mean, it also, it definitely probably has to do with like, it's probably a mixture of past experiences combined with like what happened during COVID, combined with like a bunch of other stuff. So like the example that I usually give is like, I hate making decisions. And because I don't like making decisions, then it's like I don't like making decisions. And then I'm like, I have to think, okay, well, why don't I like making decisions. Well, it's because what if you get it wrong? Well, why do I think I'll make a decision wrong? Oh, because previously you've made decisions before that were wrong, and so then you're creating self-doubt. And then you have to like keep going back to be like, well, why did I feel this way about it when I was wrong? And why did I feel so strongly about this event? And it's like you have to keep going back and back and back before you can like start uprooting things and cutting things. And that's just blatantly difficult and sucky to do. Like everybody's laid in bed and they have like had that flashback to high school where you did something embarrassing and you're like, ah, and you're like, please go back to bed. And it's like, get out of my head, get out of me head. But you can't just run away from that stuff.
But then turn into Mario for a second. That's crazy. Get out of me head.
Papa the boopy.
I felt like I didn't say that. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that is sort of like, that's the whole encompassing thing. And I think that's why Cosmic earlier was like, oh, there's so many variables, because that's just kind of like the experience of life is just so many different things that happened on a singular point, which is you. And you got to remember that, like, you got all these strings kind of pulling you every which way. And it's not just like one string is going to be able to cut it, which makes it really tough. Which is a bummer. But
and I think too, like, just another thing with Cosmic brought up with like, in terms of like dating and like meeting people and stuff, like I think also another thing too, that I kind of just wanted to pinpoint on of what you said before was that there's so many options, right? Like, I think that's like a different thing because, you know, you think about like even 15 years ago, like, you weren't meeting people online really, like, you know, like it's a very early advent of the internet. Like maybe you would meet a couple people, but like you weren't like considering them. Right. And so wherever you were, whatever city you're in, whatever, you kind of like ISO'd on like, all right, whoever I can meet, like, and you just kind of take what you can get. Right. And I feel like nowadays a lot of people like see other relationships and they want like something like that, or they see like this person, they like have all these traits, and like a lot of people like they'll like make a list of shit that they want from their partner, which is like in my opinion a little toxic, but like they'll do that, right?
A little?
Hey, but like they'll have all these things that they want, and then you're just like, okay, that's cool, but like, how are you going to find that? But people think that they can find it because they're like, oh, there's so many fish in the sea. But like, I don't know, at some point, like having so many fish in the sea also kind
of reduces the amount of choice you have.
Having so many expectations.
It also, for me, I think it's intimidating, right? Like there's so many people, right? There's so many fish in the sea. And in my opinion, it creates like an intimidation thing, which I think clams people up more of like not wanting to talk to people because they're just like, what if this person is the one and I fuck it up? You know what I mean? And then it's just like, oh shit. Like, and then I have to, you know, swim through all this garbage again. I don't know how to word it like that. I just thought it was great wording.
Isn't it strange that like, I feel like we all are kind of in agreement with this, or like I've talked to people about this, not with just you guys, and we're all kind of like, yeah, I feel the same way, but we still are afraid to like do anything about it. Isn't it like everybody feels the same way? So doesn't that mean that we don't really need to be concerned about it? But then we still are. Not everybody, obviously it's a generalization, but do you get what I mean? Where it's just sort of kind of like this weird, like,
yeah, it like, how comes back to the thing where it's like, just because you know something and you know that some other person knows it, like, doesn't make it easier. Like if you like a girl and you know that she likes you, it's still going to be fucking hard to be like, hey, do you want to go? Do you want to date? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard to still pop the question. Like, you're still going to be nervous doing that, even if you are like 100% confirmed that, you know what I mean? At least most people, at least me, I could be 100%. I could be a knower and I would still be like, I don't know, what if she says no? I don't know what happened, you know? So I get what you're saying, but I think it's just, I think like, you can know something, like you can always like know something, but like in acting versus knowing are two like different things. Like I can be like, yeah, this is like fun. Yeah. Like I'm gonna go up to the drive-thru and I'm gonna say, no, I don't want a straw. And then like I get to the drive-thru and they're like, do you want a straw? And then you just take it and you don't say anything, right? You know what I mean? Like, even something as small as that. I don't do that, by the way. I'm a god in the drive-thru, but like not to flex on everyone.
We have logic, but we don't really think logically.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the human element to it. Is like, you know, something can be perfectly fine on paper, and then when it comes to the practicality of actually doing it, it's a little bit tougher. I mean, it's one of those things where like it's also, if you zoom out more on some of the issues that we talk about, right? Like there are just some things that are like above our heads in terms of how they've been like injected into daily life, you know?
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, for example, like the amount of dating apps that are out there,
50 million.
and like the way that we like interface with them and the way that people behave on them, like a lot of that is, part of that is cultivated, right? But also that is because of like the way that like these companies have constructed the dating apps, and the way they, you know, like construct the way that people interact with each other. And then this bleeds over into other areas of life. I mean, it's one thing, right, to go to a restaurant and say to your friends, I don't really think that the chicken here tastes very good. And then all of your friends agree, yeah, I don't think that the chicken here tastes very good.
I thought you just said chick, and I was very concerned for a second. I was like, damn,
no.
going crazy in the restaurant.
I don't think this. Then everybody goes, yeah, I don't really think this chicken tastes very good either. Let's get everybody together and rally against this restaurant. Maybe we'll go to other restaurants in town. And then you find out that the same chicken factory delivers to all of the restaurants in the area. So the problem goes deeper than you thought originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You lost me for a second, but then you brought me back. You always
Yeah, I
bring me
got
back,
really
Cosmic.
hungry. I got really hungry.
I always do.
I-
Dude, I can't lie. I had lemon chicken for dinner, so like I was already thinking about it.
Yeah.
Lemon chicken and potatoes. Yeah, buddy.